Hey guys, welcome to the Hypertrophy Hustle Show. So this week I'm speaking to Samuel Schepis. I'd just like to let you know where you can find Sam first. So you can find Sam at Samuel_Schepis or Schepis or Schepi, however you pronounce Schepis.
Pronounced Schepis, not Schepis.
Very difficult last name. So Samuel is one of the owners of JPS Health and Fitness. Very fantastic company. You can also find them on Instagram at JPS Health and Fitness. And also JPS Education, JPS_education. Very interesting episode. I think you guys will enjoy it, especially the personal trainers or the people looking to run companies. I think it's very insightful, and I think we touched on a lot of things that we don't really talk about that much. And it was cool to hear someone like Sam, who doesn't really put himself out there that much, to come on the podcast, talk a little bit, and explain some of the behind-the-scenes stuff of how to actually get a company with good culture, how to make it work, how to actually run a respectful business. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. If you would like to find me online, you can find me at James_Walsham on Instagram, or you can find me at the Hypertrophy Hub. But yeah, thank you guys very much for listening. I am just going to stop here. If you guys would be so kind, if you've enjoyed the show, if there's been an episode where you've really enjoyed it, I would really appreciate it if you'd be able to leave me a review. That would mean a lot to me. If you can do that, that would be great. If not, that's completely fine. If you don't like the show, also let me know. I have an anonymous feedback thing in my Instagram bio, so if you want to do that as well, feel free. But yeah, thank you guys very much for listening, and enjoy the episode.
Like financially invested in the business. It's like for the last 8 years, it's taken up a large chunk of my time, and I've invested more and more heavily, and so has Jacob. It's like you make a lot of sacrifices running business. Yeah. So it's like that's where it all started. And then it's developed a lot, say in the last near decade.
Yeah.
It was never like we wanted to create it's like we never thought that we would be employing, say, like 10 people, 12 people, 15 people. That was never something that we kind of set out to do. We set it out to create a space that we could control the environment and the culture for our clients and their benefit. And that, I suppose, inherently has had this flow-on effect to the people that work here. It's like, it's not always good. It's like, nowhere is always good. I would just say, on average, it's probably better than most people's experience at other gyms, facilities, just because it probably has a larger personal touch from Jacob and myself. Definitely Jacob. Like he's a very big role to play in the culture and kind of atmosphere that we have here. And that's just, it's hard to replicate that. Yeah. I think it's like truly probably our most valuable asset is the culture we have.
100%.
Speaking to a good friend of mine, and I would call him a business mentor as well. It's like effectively what we're selling is, it's like we're selling a feeling to people, really. That's what kind of JPS is doing. We sell the feeling that it's like what you get from us, you can't get anywhere else. It's like you don't get the culture, you don't get a coach that cares as much. It's like, yes, knowledge and our expertise is like great. It's like I'd back any of our coaches. Like I would put my family members with any of our coaches because I completely trust their ability to deliver on their results and to do it in a way that prioritizes health and well-being and you know, all these good things. But it's like realistically, it's like as far as a gym goes, it's like, because that's now what we are as well. We're not just coaching. It's like we sell a feeling. It's like the barrier to entry for a membership here is higher than it is at any other gym. It's like the price is similar, but it's like you can't walk in off the street and just be a member. Yeah. Like we kind of screen to protect the culture because it is important to us. Yeah. You know, one bad seed will kind of, you know, ruin everything, or at least has the potential to detriment it. Yes. So it's like we have kind of some guidelines and requirements around what it takes to be a member, and usually that process is enough to kind of weed out people who don't fit within that culture. And it also, I suppose, adds a level of kind of value, like an internal value from like our clients, coaches, members, like everyone else, because then they kind of appreciate it for what it is and realize that, you know, we're all in this together, as Zac Efron said. But it's like it's a space where you can really be yourself, and you don't have to. There's no like competing for equipment. There's no.
Do you feel like, because the way I've seen it online, right, is like you get that culture where Khal Drogo can scream at the top of his lungs and then squat, and then you have that culture where it's like you teach someone how to do something safely, and the people there will communicate how to improve in a non-offensive and productive manner.
Yeah, I think, and again, it like comes down to kind of like setting expectations. It's like this is something that's come up multiple times over the years. It's like we want people to come in and have fun, and it's like to learn, and this to be a productive space. But at the same time, it's a gym, and it's not. It's like we want people to come in and train hard and push themselves. It's like obviously, Carl's training hard is completely different to, a 50-year-old middle-aged woman who's just had a hip arthroscope. It's like completely different ball game.
Yeah.
But it's like training hard is training hard. It's like it's just individual dependent.
Yes.
So it's like we kind of at a point need to just like be wary of those things, because it's like there's certainly been times where someone might come in and that type of if they don't know any better or haven't had that exposure first, and the first, say, instance of their exposure was to see Khal Drogo smack the bar and, squatting 240, they'll be like, this gym isn't for me.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes.
Yes, I know.
Something we have to be careful of, something that it's like I'm certainly aware of. But I think once people are in and they're aware of the culture, and they're aware that it's like we're not just coaches, we also train, and we take our training seriously, whether it's we're rehabbing because we have an injury, or we have a competition. It's like our coaches strive high, like aim high. It's like we want them to succeed. We want to succeed, like myself, Jacob, our sister, all of our staff, as well as our clients. So I suppose that's that kind of the environment. Again, it's just like something we need to be wary of.
Do you feel like it's something
does that even answer the question?
Yeah. Do you feel like it's kind of the thing where it's not something that you can think of before? It's like when you start a podcast, right? You think, when I started this, right, I was thinking, I want to talk about this, and it's like you kind of don't really know what you want to talk about. And is it kind of a similar thing with culture or how you want the gym to be? It's kind of like from the outset, it's kind of hard to see what it's actually going to be or what it should be, I guess.
Yeah, so I think that's certainly true. It's like I think you need to, at a level, have an idea in the direction you want to take it. It's like, you can't endeavor and just say, well, I don't. It's like just not knowing where you're going to go. It's like you don't get in the car and just drive aimlessly around. Well, some people might, but it's like if you're trying to get somewhere or using something to achieve something, you don't just get in and aimlessly do it. You say, well, this is where I am, this is where I want to be, and kind of what are these points along the way. And then you'll start, and you might like slightly deviate from that trajectory, and you say, well, is this trajectory more productive, more positive? If yes, you might continue. If no, you might make an adjustment. It's like there's certainly been things. It's like times where to our culture, it's like there's been necessary like changes to be made, whether it's from a like internal like staffing perspective, like a change of structure. It's like making sure that lines of communication are well established. That if something has to happen, it's like, or if someone's like done something, it's like how do we deal with those things in a way that is in line with our culture, but will also preserve it and keep it trajecting in a positive direction, and one that we think that we want to see it go in. And also clients and members, like what if we have someone come in and they do have a very large impact on the culture, or they start to from our perspective maybe derail a little bit. It's like do we have a conversation with that person and say, hey, it's like this isn't kind of what we want, or and I suppose it's just like you need this overarching idea of what you want. And again, this kind of comes back to that's like where it all started. It's like we want to have a space that we can have our clients feel comfortable, somewhere where they can come in. It's Cheers, the TV show.
Is it similar to like Friends?
I I really don't know. I don't really know it either. All I know is like in their theme song, it says something. It's like it's somewhere where everyone knows your name, right? This
Yeah.
has come up multiple times because it's like when people come in, when our clients come into JPS, it's like, so it will come up at least monthly. Someone will be like, oh, it's like, do you know everyone's name in here? And it's like, yeah, most of. Like, certainly don't know everyone's name, not anymore. There's a lot of people now. But it gives it that personal touch. And that comes back to, as I said, like the very like outset of like why we started it out, or why Jacob started out and how it's developed, is like we wanted to create a space for people to feel comfortable and confident, to get good training and education around like fitness, training, nutrition, and to progress and to train. And kind of everything else just feeds into that overarching goal.
Yeah, and I feel like everything you guys kind of do fits within the same, I guess, culture. It's like you're actively trying to progress fitness as a whole, while hold on, have I lost you? So actively trying to progress fitness as a whole and trying to have a positive impact on the industry, while obviously it has to be profitable from a business perspective. So it's like I'm seeing you guys doing that, which is fantastic, and it's like you're doing that without it having a detriment. So you're making it profitable without making it drain the industry. And it's like, say for instance the mentorship, right? It's like you see people go into it, they learn how to do the shit properly because they're having actual intelligent lecturers, and then they get out of it and they're a better influence on the industry. It's just like, how, like, do you guys take into account that kind of, what impact do we want to have on the industry? Like with the conference, right? It's like no one's doing conferences like that. It's like, I mean, there is other conferences, but it's like, it's just, yeah, it's pretty, I don't know, it's new territory, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, okay, there's certainly like an overarching goal of like what we do, especially from like the way we handle clients, the way we deal with our members, and the way we want to be perceived as a business and like an entity in and of itself. I think it's a very common experience that a lot of coaches have shared, that say they've done their certification and it's just not great. It doesn't prepare you for the industry to the extent that it needs to. And I think it's a glaring gap that is quite harmful and can be quite harmful. It's like everyone talks about how the average coach tenure is like 6 months. It's like there is a reason it's 6 months. Because it's quick to do. It's not that expensive. It was subsidized, at least in Australia, like when we were doing it. So it's like people could do it, and like, you know, it wasn't even that expensive. It was quick, and everyone, and you know, people starting to get into their fitness, and then they start working. They're not equipped. It's like you don't learn it at school, and you certainly don't learn it through the course. You're not well equipped to actually coach and train people, and to deliver results, or to deal with many of the problems that often come up. Like the problems that it's like we deal with, they don't even touch on them. It's like, you know, what do you do if a client comes to you and they're like, you know, they're depressed? It's like, yeah, it's like you refer out, but it's like they've come to you, you know. It's like,
how do you begin to handle issues that you feel as though are way outside of your scope? Like you feel like they're outside of your scope, but it's like, surely there is something you can do. It's like,
yeah,
for a medical
I certainly think
practitioner,
that
they have, like, the issue that I'm facing right now is I study podiatry, and they have this issue where they have no education around health and fitness. They have their nutritional information is abysmal. Like, I was speaking to a doctor the other day, and he said to lose weight he used keto and he used intermittent fasting, and that was the height of his nutrition knowledge near the end of his degree, and it's like 7 years or something ridiculous, and that was the height of his knowledge. Like, he didn't even know what a calorie was. It's like, we had a slideshow. I said this a billion times. So we have a slideshow treating obesity, and there's nothing on it that says anything about calories. And do you feel like it's kind of a similar thing? It's like there's certain areas that are just sort of completely ignored a lot of the time in health and fitness.
Yeah. I think, yeah, like coaches, play to a large extent a bridging like role, in the sense of it's like there's kind of the community on one side, and then there's like specific medical or allied health professionals on the other side, and then it's like coaches probably the intermediary that a lot of people will go to them with problems and stuff that's like really aren't within our scope. And it's like at the end of the day, it's like we develop a fiduciary relationship with our clients. It's like it's a relationship of trust and respect, where it's like for the most part they're paying you. If you tell them to do something, they're probably going to do it. And it's like coaches need to be aware of this and careful of this, because it's like first rule of like really anything is do no harm. Like, you know, it's like we don't want to hurt our clients when they come in. So I think it's like, yeah, as the industry is getting better slowly, I think with the likes of, you know, Eric Helms, like Greg Knuckles, people who are putting out digestible, high quality information that are dispelling a lot of the myths, I think it's doing good things for the industry, but it deals with people who are in the industry already and already aware. And I think to take this back to your initial question, it's like a lot of what we do is designed around, say, you would have heard like our slogan, raise the standard. Like for a lot of our education stuff and even our clients, it's like that's what we really, that's kind of like the overarching objective is we want to say raise the standard for coaches, at least in Australia, hopefully worldwide, by providing them education information that is like high quality. It's, you know, it's been fact checked. It's, you know, it's relevant. It's necessary, and it's going to make them better. It's like that is what we try and it's like, does this do this job? It's like UEBC. It's like, well, that's a large like endeavor. It's like I'm already in the process of organizing 2020. You know, and it's a large investment from our perspective as well. It's like, you know, to be completely frank, it's not like a massive money maker, but it's a very good event for our brand.
Yeah. It gives you guys a lot of
like, at
credit,
the end of the day,
who's doing something with that kind of quality. It's like you look at it and I was like, holy fuck. Like initially when I looked at the price, I was like, oh my god, wow, that's a lot of money. But then it's like you look at the event and it's like there's literally like you have all the best names in evidence-based fitness, and then you have like the venue looked fucking phenomenal, and it's just like
it's expensive, but I truly believe it's a worthwhile endeavor for us. It's like if we break even, like we're happy, because it's like as a minimum, it's like our coaches got to attend. It's like they got the benefit of learning, being better. It's like we try and it's like I think everything starts at home. So it's like for us, it's like our home is JPS. It's our coaches. They're our family. So it's like we very much encourage them to seek upskilling, like external of us. It's like, you know, learning never stops. It's like I'm certainly not the smartest person when it comes to, you know, coaching or working with people. It's just I have experience. It's like I've been doing it for a long time. It's like we have coaches who are far better than me, like with, you know, say the minutiae, or it's like they understand hormones, they understand like these things. It's just like because I've been investing in other parts of my, say, development, it's just like I just haven't invested into those as much as I probably should have. But everything kind of comes back to, it's like, how is this going to, say, raise the standard of the fitness industry at large to bridge that gap? It's like, you know, we started, say, you know, the mentorship program that we now do. It's like, okay, that's online. It's like that started off with, you know, coaches who are working, and they'll be like, you know, that asked Jacob, be like, how do you do what you do? Like, can you like mentor me? And it's like, yeah, okay, come in, shadow, we'll sit down. And then that developed into a class. And then that developed into an online course that makes a lot more sense now, because it's like now we can continually add value to it through modules, through further information from other experts. Like we can go on contract, you know, like Jake Lenarden, who's, you know, one of the few researchers who are looking into, you know, binge eating disorders, and, you know, we can add that kind of information, giving people more value, because it's like, yeah, It's like that's not within our scope, but they're problems that we deal with on a daily basis. So it's like it's very easy to say, it's very easy to not take responsibility, and to disclaim yourself and say, you know what, it's like this isn't within my scope. But I believe at a certain point, people have to take responsibility. If someone's come to you, you owe it to them to at least do your best within reason. I'm absolutely not advocating that you go and give them medical advice that you go and actually act out of your scope, but you have to work with them. It's like you might have a client come in and they're like, I have these issues. It's like, okay, it's like they're not within my scope of practice, but it's like, how can we work on them? It's like,
at least the bare minimum.
You need
right?
you need to get buy-in from them.
Yeah.
You need them to believe that you're invested and interested enough in them and their personal success to actually heed your advice. If you have a new client come in and it's like they do have, like, for lack of a better example, let's say they have depression, they come in and it's like, okay, well, it's like we need to deal with, this is an overarching problem that's going to have a flow-on effect to your health and your fitness and all these other parts of your life. But it's like you can still, as a coach, start working counsel them. Absolutely not. But it's like you can be there for them, be a positive influence in their life, and encourage them to train, encourage them to do things that are going to have productive output.
Yeah, it's like, what would you do as a friend? Like as a friend, you wouldn't try and sit them down and give them a medical intervention, but it's like you would fucking be there for them and show them that you're undeniably there for them. It's like,
and I certainly think like coaches would be like, oh, well, you have this problem. It's like I can't deal with you because it's out of my scope.
Yeah,
but maybe they can. I'm certain there are times where it's like that's a good call. But like using that, say, depression example, it's like you can show that you're there. You can help them along that process and be there with them throughout it. Encourage them to go seek counselling, go and get a mental health plan, see a GP.
Do you feel like a lot of this is like, is it are people scared to step out of their scope because of legalities, or just like they don't know enough, or like what?
Go on, sorry.
What do you think the primary issue is there? Because it's like, for me, I've just started online coaching and I work with a few people that are quite interesting. So they've got a few unique medical conditions, but I don't think they're going to be an issue. They're not like, they're really unique. Like one's scoliosis, one's Russell Silver syndrome. But I don't think it's an issue. We're just trying to, because
you just have to work around it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's like, again, they came to you for a purpose. It's like,
if I just say,
they want to lose weight, train, they want to feel better about themselves and look better and be confident in those things. You can still instill those things even if they have, problems that you can't deal with. But it's like, okay, for someone who has scoliosis, it might be working with, say, someone, a physio, a chiropractor, an osteo, and saying, okay, it's like, let's start doing things that you can do in the gym. And it's like, you might start, working on, say, things that are within your scope, right? That you can do with them. It's like, you just have to work out what that is. It's like, you're just putting a box around it. You're saying, okay, well, you have these problems. I can't touch anything outside of those, but we can still do this. Right? And for different people, that box will be, it'll be like shifted one way. It'll be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, and that's fine. But it's like, then you have to be like, okay, how can we collaborate with the people that we need to? It's like, we have a physio on site.
Yes.
He's great. I'm sure there are a lot of great physios out there.
Yeah.
But I know that if I send a client to him, he's going to send me an email telling me this is what I think is going on. And at the end of the day, that's what most of medicine is. It's a best guess and a best educated guess based on experience, like everything. It's like he'll send through and say, this is what you shouldn't do. I've prescribed this rehab, and we work on that together. And then I can take them as in their training, I can be like, okay, we can still do these things in your training. It's like, we can do some rehab together, but I want you to do most of it by yourself because you don't need me to baby you for that. And we can still work, and we can work productively and progress from there. I think, like, to answer your question though, I think people are scared to do harm, which is fair enough, because if you don't know enough, or it's out of your scope of practice, you aren't protected by law. It's like, if you have insurance, it's like you're not covered to give, to adjust people like a chiropractor would, for example. So it's like you can't go and, throw them over a bin like Homer does, because you leave yourself vulnerable to a lawsuit, and that's not a good thing. Even if you have insurance, your insurance won't cover that. So I think a lot of things do come back to insurance, which is like interesting. Like insurance is at a point, it's like buying a lotto ticket. It's like you pay for it every year, hoping that you'll never need to use it.
Right.
But it's like it will pay off maybe one day when something goes wrong. It's like a reverse lotto ticket nearly. I think just people on average probably don't know the best way to go about working within their scope, but then not venturing out, but staying in their scope and kind of looking outwards, I suppose, is a good way of thinking about it. It's like they're not leaving their scope of practice, but it's like, okay, how can we touch these? So think of like a Venn diagram, right? Except it's like your scope of practice, and then there's all these other circles that overlap in different areas that are outside of your scope. They kind of cross over, but you can't really do anything in them. It's like, okay, it's like you can just give them general advice and be like, look, it's like, just disclaim yourself and say, look, this is not my area. I do not know this. Do it in writing. That's probably always a good way to go about it. So disclaim everything in writing. Yep. It's like, I can't give legal advice, even though I'm a lawyer, because I'm not practicing. People come to me and ask for advice all the time. It's like, that advice typically starts with, it's like, I can't give you advice, so this is not advice. You should probably go and see a lawyer. This is what I think, but go and see a lawyer. Because it's like, I just can't do it. It's like if they say, well, I relied on you for this, I'm screwed.
Yes.
It's like, I don't want to do that to myself, but it's like I can 100%. I can still direct them in what I think is the right direction.
Yes.
As a person and as a friend or as a coach, I think that's what people need to do. They need to say, okay, this is outside of my scope. I need you to be aware as a client, this is outside of my scope. It's like, this is what I think, this is what, my inclinations are based on knowledge, information. It's like you might have additional upskilling in a certain area, but it's still outside of your scope as a coach.
Yes.
So it's like you need to probably wear multiple different hats at different times, and you just have to be upfront and forward with your clients and say, it's like, I'm not qualified in this area, but I think you should do this, or see this person, or go and ask these questions, go get a GP referral, go do these things. And it's like you're kind of staying within your scope. You might be like looking out and you're standing at the boundary of your scope, looking out, and you can see further than your own horizon. And it's like, okay, this is the direction we might need to take it, but you need to kind of at a point handball it on. I think then people are scared to work with anyone. Like, not anyone. People can be fearful of the repercussions if they work with someone who might, blur those lines a little, where it's like, oh, this person has an eating disorder, I can't work with them. And it's like, well, like they came to you for training.
Like, surely you can have a net positive impact.
Yeah, and I think like that's the overall objective, say, for all coaches. You should be like aiming to have a positive and productive influence in anyone's life as far as their training and health goes. So it's like, you can still have that positive influence, even if they have an eating disorder. You can just be like, we're going to talk about like your eating, nutrition, anything like that. And then as they develop a relationship with you, you get buy-in with them. They start to invest into the process with you and believe what you say, and that you do have their best interest at heart. And it's not just a financial thing, because that's what it is. It's like they're just investing in you. It's like, why should they spend money on you? You have to demonstrate that to them. And then once
is that kind of like emphasized quite a lot, do you think? Do you think people miss that fact? Kind of like, do you want them to know? And I guess it's hard to actually do it, to be genuine about it, to show them like, I actually give a fuck about you as a human being.
Yeah, especially when there's money involved. I think money makes things. Yeah, money makes things a little bit like peculiar.
Yeah.
It makes people uncomfortable. Makes me uncomfortable. It's like you know.
It makes them.
Yeah.
It corrupts the. Like,
it's like taboo.
Purity of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like people don't like talking about it. And it's like, it's like it's like, okay, many of my clients, it's like, I would say I have personal relationships with them. It's like that's just the way things develop in this industry.
Yes.
Like I spend with some clients and people who train here as much time with them as I do with my family. So it's very hard to keep those things very separate. But at the end of the day, it's like they pay to be here, and it's like it's up to us to deliver on what they're paying for. There should be no issues in charging if you know that you're worthwhile. But like bringing it back to say, like working with someone within a scope, it's like, yeah, you can certainly still do it. I just think you need to disclaim and say, hey, it's like, get that trust, build that relationship with that person, show them that you care, and that it's not just about the money, and you didn't tell them that they should just train with you despite these other things, even though someone said not to. Say, it's like, let's progress in these areas within the scope that we can. I'm not allowed to touch these things. This is what I think you should do. Now, like, you should go off and do it. And if there's like other practitioners involved, ask them to collaborate with them, to work with them.
Yes.
Open lines of communication, because at the end of the day, it's for their benefit.
And
so, don't make ridiculous claims.
Yeah.
Disclaim yourself and say, it's not within my scope. It's like, I'm not qualified in these areas. People should have no problem saying that. Refer out. And then, it's like, just don't be a dickhead, really. It's like, it's like people just have to be aware that there is a level of risk in training.
Yeah.
Fuck. It's like if I had a client come in, it's like they break their arm while they're bench pressing or something.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it might not be my fault. It's just like, shit just happens sometimes. It's like you assume a risk every time you do something, right? It's like you assume a risk every time you go down a flight of stairs.
Do you feel like a lot of the reduced risk comes a lot through further education and actually understanding it? It's like, because I'll talk to people, right? Like, I work at a store called Shoe Clinic. It's like we sell shoes to people, and they often come in, and they often come in and think that it's a medical practice, and it's like you have to really explain to them it's not. And it's like we sell fucking shoes. It's not a medical practice by any means. Like, and it's just like my boss will mention, oh yeah, you're a qualified podiatrist nearly, and it's like, that doesn't matter. I can't fucking use that. Like, it's like, be careful. Like, and then it's like, but then it's like the information that I can give them in store is pretty good. Like, just basic. It can certainly, but again, it's like, it doesn't, as you said, it doesn't matter. It's like, by saying that you're something, or in like one area, it's like that can be dangerous for you to say, oh, I'm a podiatrist, you should do this. Then someone goes and relies on your advice, goes and buys these shoes, comes back and has foot problems. Then they come back and say, well, you told me to buy these shoes. You said you're a podiatrist. You should have known. Yes. And I want my money back. I'm going to sue you. It's like, if you're just selling shoes and working within your scope, you're not going to have those problems. No, exactly.
You could say to that person that came in, be like, look, it's like, you're having these particular problems with your feet. It's like, I am studying podiatry. I am not a qualified podiatrist. I recommend you go and see a podiatrist. It's like, I think these shoes will be okay, but you should probably go and do it anyway. It's like, you just cover your bases. That's all it is. It's like, because if someone comes back to you, it's like, you don't want them to be, it's like, you don't want to be the reason, or there to be even a potentiality for them to draw a line between something bad that has happened to them and some advice or information that you gave them and that they relied on.
Yeah. It's I don't know, it's a really difficult line to sort of run, and
it is. It's blurry.
But I feel like to do it well, you kind of just need to educate yourself. Like, if you're going to, like, for instance, diet breaks. I'm talking to Eric on Thursday, and it's like, that's one of the questions I want to bring up. I want to see how he thinks we should navigate that as practitioners, because it's like, if you get a client with issues with binge eating, it's like, you can just say, fuck, okay, I'm going to just not do anything. But it's like, then you've left...
Throw your hands up.
Yeah, you kind of left them with the feeling of like, no one can help me. So then it's like, that's probably a net negative. But then it's like, oh no, we're worried we're going to step outside of our scope. So that's one thing that I think it's like one of the problems that is actually coming to light now, thanks to like people like Jake, people like Eric, people like JPS. It's like, you guys are sort of bringing it out into the light a little bit, talking about it a little bit more, and figuring it out without sort of just giving the broad, really safe statements. It's like,
I think this was something I was speaking to like Aaron about yesterday. It's like it's very easy for someone to say, "Oh, well, it depends,"
Yeah.
and just leave it there. It's like, yeah, that's probably for the most part, that's probably like an accurate answer for nearly any question, right? Save absolutes, but that's not why people ask questions. They don't want to. They want an answer for them. It's like, okay, I have a binge eating disorder. Should I do a diet break? It's like maybe not. In life, it's diet breaks might work, but for you as an individual, it might not be a great idea. Great, and now they can progress because they've got an answer. But you might, it's like because they have an eating disorder, you might say, look, it's like I don't think this is like a conversation we should like really be having. It's like, why don't you speak to psychologists, whoever they're working with on their disorder, and then you say, do you mind? It's like ask them if you can speak to that person that they're speaking with. Say, is it okay if I reach out to them or ask them to send me an email like just summarizing what they think you should do, so then you can incorporate it into your practices. I think education, it's like, the more educated people become, it's like the more they realize that they don't know. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect is just, it's like I think everyone's experience, most people can say that they've experienced it at some point in their life. I remember when I was like 20 and coaching people, I was like, I know shit. It's like, look how good I am. And it's like now it's like people come and ask me questions, and more often than not, my default answer is go and ask insert coach name here who is on site at the time. And I just say they're going to give you a better answer. But it's like, that doesn't mean that my clients go, well, my coach doesn't know anything. It's like, if anything, I would say it has the inverse effect where it's like they say, okay, he cares so much that he's not willing to give me a wrong answer. Yeah. I could probably like hedge a bet, try and answer it, but it's like, or they could just ask someone who's probably more well equipped.
Yeah.
By directing them in the right direction and like being with them through that process, it's like people then it probably has a net positive effect because people go, oh well,
I think
they cared enough to do this.
Because they know you're not going to be a dickhead and lie to them. It's like something that I've said to all my clients is like, you can ask me as many questions as you want, but if I don't know the question, I'm going to refer out. It's like I'm going to say, go ask this person or look at this resource or whatever. It's like if I'm not confident that my answer is sufficient, I'm going to send you elsewhere, because it's like, it's just irresponsible to bullshit an answer,
like, to guess, really. It's like, it is irresponsible, I think. And that's like probably the best thing you can do is like, that's like the best disclaimer you can give anyone. It's like, it's, I don't think I can deal with it. It's like, you have my word that I will either try and give you the best advice that I can, or I will refer you to someone who I think can.
Yes.
It's like, I think this is something Eric Helms does really well. And I think that people need to do more frequently in other aspects of like training, nutrition, just generally in life, is like making people fully aware of what they're getting themselves into.
Yes.
So it's like Eric certainly does it with like the comp prep, drawing attention to the negative repercussions. It's like, well, yes, it's great, but it's like, these are all the things that we risk and give up and the adverse effects of doing it. I think everyone needs to be an informed consumer. It's like when people say, in America, it's like you get a president that you don't like, and it's like all of a sudden people are complaining that, the person they voted for isn't doing what they said. And it's like, well, how informed were you? Did you just go in and vote? It's like, yeah, maybe they lied to you, but it's like maybe you didn't do your research. Maybe you were just like a bit naive or lazy. I think people need to be informed consumers. It's like you need to make it abundantly clear to your clients what they're going to get.
Yes.
It's like, what is going to happen? Okay, we're going to diet you down and try and lose 20 kilos. These are things that might happen. It's like you will have to make sacrifices. You won't be able to do these things. It's like you might feel a little bit sluggish. It's like your energy levels will suck. It's like all of these things might happen. It's like people need to know that what's to expect, right? Ultimately, it comes back to expectations, because if people go into things blind and they come to you for coaching and they say, well, I told you I had depression and you didn't tell me that, you weren't able to deal with it, and now I expect you to deal with it. It's like now because you haven't set expectations for them of what you can do, what is within your scope, what they can expect, good or bad or otherwise, and then it becomes a lot more blurry, and that's where problems lie. Whereas if you're kind of upfront, forward, make sure you give people as much information about whatever it is, insert topic here, what they can expect, what you can expect, all these things. It's like, and they're an informed consumer, whether it's information, whether they're buying something. It's like, it's probably going to be a net positive result for everyone involved. Because then if someone turns around and says, well, you didn't tell me this, specific thing. It's like, oh, I didn't know this, but it's like, well, I told you this from the outset. I said that this was going to be something, I said you were going to, lose your libido if you dieted, right?
Yeah.
I warned you of this. Yeah. And they're like, oh, now I have no sex drive. It's like, well, I told you. It's like, if you didn't heed it, that's not on me.
Yeah. I think that's kind of acting like a medical practitioner, right? Like with every intervention you give, you have to give the risks and the benefits. And it's like, you have to, and you should give them all the reasonable interventions that you're aware of. It's like,
I would say it's not even a medical practitioner. I would say that's literally any industry.
Right.
Anyone.
Yeah.
It's like you have a bricklayer come to your house and say,
well,
we can do this job this way, but these are the considerations. It's like, it might cost more. We can do a double brick. It's going to, it takes up twice the amount of resources, but it's going to be a lot more secure. It's going to cost you more money. It's going to take more time. It's like every industry has to give information. That's like, that's what people rely on. And I think that's where the problems lie, when it's like there's a mismatch of expectations and the information doesn't align with what is expected.
Yes.
Right. It's just
it's
you'd be shitty. And rightly so as a consumer.
And I guess that's the hard thing to sort of judge that and figure that out. But you kind of have to be disciplined in the pursuit of, I don't know, communicating well and making sure they're well aware of what's going on. Yeah. One thing that I'd like to touch on is, I don't know if we mentioned it off air or on air, but we sort of talked a little bit about these sort of internal cogs and like the things that people don't think about when running these kind of things. Is there any that sort of really come to mind, or any that kind of you think people just completely neglect or are just unaware of? Like, for example, when I just started this brand, sort of the Hypertrophy Hub, it's like there's a lot of stuff that I didn't realize went into it, like just the legal stuff, and then sort of actually setting up the process of like doing what we just talking about. It's like telling them what you actually do in online coaching. Like, most people don't have online coaching, they haven't had it previously, so it's like they don't even know what happens. So it's like making something. I made a manual. It's like to explain that in a fair light, while giving them all the information they need to make the best decision that they can.
You want them to make an informed decision and still buy your product.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
because you're a business.
Yeah. Is there anything in terms of like the internal cogs and I guess setting all of this up that really jumps out to you that people sort of neglect or don't even think about or anything like that?
Look, I think it's very easy to say, look at any successful business from the outside and say, oh, wow, look how good they do things. It's like, the reality is, it's like they've probably made mistakes. They've, done things and gone, oh, fuck, we shouldn't have done that. That was a bad idea. It's like, we certainly have. It's like, it's like you trial, say, a new service, or you say, we're going to try this, this new product, and it doesn't quite work out. But I think more than anything, people need to be open and willing and receptive of change. It's like, you have to understand. It's like, you created this manual. It's not going to be the last manual you create.
No, exactly. I already made edits like yesterday.
There you go. So it's like, you just have to be aware of that. I think, as a business grows, or any entity grows, or any endeavor, it's like, you might add more cogs. You might take some out and say, you know what, this isn't working, this isn't efficient. You might bring staff on and say, I want you to do this role, and that role might change. And it's like, what you thought you wanted them for, they end up doing something completely different. It's like, okay, well, that's fine, as long as it's serving like an end goal. I think, like, like we spoke about at this kind of start of the conversation, it's like, any endeavor has like a natural starting point and at least a perceived endpoint, like somewhere where you think you want to go. And it's like, okay, you just need to map it out. And it's like, you're just trying to create a machine that's going to get you there in an efficient and productive way.
Yeah.
It's like, for us, it's like we have staff, and it's like, okay, well, what we need to say, determine what makes us the most money. Like, what things are strategic in the sense of, it's like, well, maybe they don't bring in direct income, but they bring indirect income. That's a worthwhile investment. That's a cog that we need, in our machine, something that's going to push us forwards in a productive way, even though it could be perceived as, oh, it's not making money, so we should drop it, right? I think that it's a very individual thing. You need to determine, say, for your own business, it's like, okay, well, what do we need to do? Oh, well, you're running for your example, it's like you're running a business by yourself. Okay, you can be a sole proprietor, you can own it yourself. It's like, that means you incur the ownership, well, at least in Australia. It's like, so you're the sole owner, you are responsible for it. It's like, profits and losses are yours. It's like, you're just creating this. It's like, or you could be like, oh, well, I want to grow things. So it's like, you might choose a different entity. It's like, you might say, oh, well, I'm going to set up a company and I'm going to separate my liability to an extent. I'm just going to be a director. Still liable, but it's a separate entity. The company would report itself and all these things, and you work within it. It's like you bring staff on. I think being open to change is probably the one thing that I would say. It's like, nothing is ever fixed. Even as much as people want to talk about, like, is it determination theory? It's like everything's already predetermined. I think it's like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's like, we'll never know. So there's probably not too much point in really spending much time thinking about it. I just think that if you see something's not working, make a change. If you see something's going really well, how can you capitalize on it? If you see an opportunity, well, how can you, act on that?
Yes.
I think, like, from like a business standpoint, it's like, when an opportunity does present itself, you just want to be ready. You want to have, say, your dominoes in line to be able to go, okay, we can execute on this.
Yeah.
It's like, we want to go on.
That was kind of like the position that I was in, because I thought I was going to start online coaching in like November, but I was kind of realizing, like, why don't I start now? And it was like, I realized I've got the, I guess, systems in place. Like, I had the podcast, that's given me some respect, some viewers, people can understand that I have some clue of what I'm talking about. So it's like I don't know, that can sort of drive people to, apply to be a client. And then it's like, that was kind of in place, and that has been in place, and that like the whole idea of this has been to be able to make things like that possible. Like, make me be able to sell products that I create in a manner that I still believe in. Similar to JPS, right? It's like, just everything kind of builds on each other, and like every part of it kind of rolls into one, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, well, you just have this overarching objective, right? It's like, you have that start point and what the objective that you want to achieve. It's like, it's like perfection, right? It's like, perfection is this kind of like all elusive goal that everyone has. It's like, everyone has in their head an idea of a perfect physique, but you'll never achieve it, and it'll always change, right? And that's okay. And I think people need to be understanding and accepting of that fact, that it's like, a business will never be perfect. There will always be problems. It's like, you will always think, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done this differently, I should have done this, I should have tried that. And that's okay. You just have to be aware of it. It's like, your objective, if you're trying to help people, you'll never achieve it. You'll always just work towards it. It's like, how can we, as like JPS, how can we raise the standard of the fitness industry as best we can? Well, it's like, now, we were approached, say,
Wait, do you want to repeat
RTO,
that? You just cut out?
Sorry, a few years ago, we were approached by an RTO. I think it's a registered teaching organization, something like that.
Yeah.
RTO, anyway. And it's like, they offer certificate 3 and 4. At that time, we weren't really ready or in a position to like utilize that opportunity. It's like, we were still very much building the business, getting our things set up. But it's like, now, a few years down the track, it's like we reach out to them for information because we were approached by someone else, and now we're working with them to facilitate certificate 3 and 4. So it's like we can now work on raising the standard with incoming coaches. It's like the industry is never going to be perfect, right? But it's like we can continually try and do our part and do a better job of improving that standard, improving the quality of incoming trainers in the industry, and then also improving the ongoing quality of coaches within the industry. And it's like as we kind of discussed earlier, it's like the scope of practice of coaches is like very minimal, but the areas that they are involved in are very large, very large reaching. So it's like, you know, to truly raise the standard for like people's health and fitness and like coaches, it's like there's so many things, so many factors, so many, you know, it's like, well, coaches, you know, maybe it's like effectively you'd need to be like every profession rolled into one to truly be able to help people the way that we would want to. It's like not realistic. So it's like we just need to continually work on doing the best job we can to improve like our area of that market and say, well, we want to make sure, you know, our clients are getting results, they're staying healthy, they're not being harmed in any way, and they're just progressing towards their goals, whatever they are at the time, and they're going to change, and that's okay. And we just continually we're continually working to that process. It's like, okay, are we trajecting in the right direction? Yes. Does this align with the goals that we're trying to achieve? No. Cut it, adjust it, you know, adapt it, do whatever. So I just think, you like from a, like for your business, for any business, you just need to know what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Do you feel
at the end of the day,
does that come through something like mission statements? It's like sort of figuring out, this is what I believe in as an entity or as a company. This is a rough way, or do you sort of make a rough plan of how you want to go about achieving it? Or, and is it a lot of things like, okay, this is what we want to do this year? So I guess people always debate on goals and blah blah, and they always say, oh, it's not a good idea to have goals, it's a good idea, and then
of course it's a good idea to have goals. If you're not aiming to do something, you're kind of like, you're probably more at risk of spinning your wheels. Yeah. I would say.
I agree.
That would be my guess. It's like I think we see it a lot, say with the clients. If a client comes in, they're not working on something specifically. It's very easy just to go through the motions. One of my really good friends, it's his birthday today. It's like, you know, shit happens in life. He works in, you know, family business. It's very hard to stay motivated all the time. If you're not directly working for something, you can't say. I think time frames are really important. You know, it's like 10-week challenges, 8-week challenges, 12-week challenges, 4-week challenges. The only thing that they're good for is put it by paying the money and say there's now a time frame on it, makes them accountable. That's it. Everything else can be done by any coach within any time frame. You just need to hold yourself accountable, which can be hard. So I certainly think goals are important, and I think goals have to have a start date and a finish date.
Yeah.
If they're ongoing and there's no due date, there's no you know, objective as to when something to be done.
Ongoing, or they don't have a due date, is that kind of more the mission statement?
Yes. So I would say like the mission statement it's like something that you need to be constantly working towards and checking against. So it's like our mission statement is to educate and inspire change through evidence-based training and nutrition to help our community achieve their goals, right? So that's our mission statement. It's like a subcategory of that would be to raise the standard. That would be like a simplified version of it. It's like we're trying to raise the standard within the fitness industry for our clients, the coaches, you know, incoming coaches, current coaches, our members, and our staff, like in our team. Like we're just trying to raise the standard, I suppose, at large. So it's like that's the overarching objective, and then everything else feeds into it. So it's like we start our mentorship and we say, well, this is a goal, this is something we're doing to facilitate this goal. We're never going to achieve this goal, absolutely, but we will always be working towards it. And then it's like, okay, the mentorship, well, how do we set this up so it's going to achieve that goal? And then we constantly adjust to work on it and make sure it is doing that. And then if it's not, then we go, well, you know, is it worthwhile doing? How does it achieve this overarching goal? If it doesn't, do we scrap it? Do we continue doing it? Do we, you know, make adjustments to it to make sure that it does? So It's like, yeah, if you're starting out and you say you want to, you know, bring in clients, it's like, okay, we'll put a time frame on that. It's like your mission statement is why you're in existence, right? It's like it's like inherently the reason that you do what you do. It's like you now know why we do what we do. It's to create a space for people to help them with their training and nutrition and to raise the standard at large. Like that is why we do what we do. How we do it and the goals we have to facilitate that, they're like a level down. They're not as high level.
So would those goals be more like numeric? It's like, for instance, I have listener goals. I have the goals of the amount of listeners I want to have per month by the end of this year. And it's like, I didn't used to have those, but now it's like, that's concretely something I want to get. And maybe in content creation, it's a bad idea. It's debatably a bad idea because it's like, oh, well, but realistically, I think if it's not trending up, that's an issue, and you're doing something wrong inherently.
Maybe not doing something wrong, but maybe you need to make you maybe not doing. I think saying you're doing it wrong is maybe a not productive perspective to take.
I agree.
I think maybe saying that you could do something better is probably a more productive mindset.
That is.
I think
that's the language you guys use over at JPS is something I greatly admire. It's like you guys have taught me how to be less of a dogmatic fuck. It's like
yeah, I was listening to a podcast the other day and they'll talk like I can't remember who it was. Someone said it's like, you know, life is 10% what happens and 90% how like we react or respond. It's like our perception of what happens around us, which is very true. It's like your internal dialogue never stops, but it's like, you know, it's like we have an encounter now and then it's like you'll probably be thinking about it later and being like, oh shit, I said this, I didn't ask this, you know, or maybe I sound dumb when I did this. It's like everyone thinks about that about themselves. So I think if you can just take a more productive like view on the things that you do, you'll probably be better off. It's like, you know, I think it's just a paradigm shift. Instead of being like, well, this isn't good, oh, this is bad, be like, how can I make this good?
Yes.
You know, or focusing on positives. To answer your question, though, I think, fuck oath. You need to have hard and fast objectives.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and that's what I mean. It's like our objective might be to have 100 students in the mentorship intake. That is a set number. That is like, that is a hard and fast number that we want to achieve. But that will feed into the overarching goal of our mission, like our mission statement and our overarching goal of raising the standard. But there's no quantifiable way to do that, you know, not at least short term. Maybe in 10 years' time, we can look back and the average tenure of personal trainers is higher. Or maybe we look at all the people that we've mentored or the people who've come through their certificate 3 and 4 with us and we say, okay, how long have they stayed in the industry? How many people have they helped? And we compare that to, you know, other coaches who have done it through other, you know, RTOs. And we say, well, our coaches, people who did it through us, averaged twice as long in the industry.
Yeah.
Great. If they've averaged twice as long, they've probably had the potential to at least help more people, which, you know, in effect might mean we raise the standard in that sense.
Yeah.
We could do a similar thing in the sense of we'd look at our clients from 5 years ago. We say, where are they now? Compared to every other people who didn't do it. And it's like, okay, well maybe, you know, their life is improved because now they understand the importance of health and, you know, fitness. And I certainly think this is completely tangential. I just think with any endeavor in life, I think investing 100% is dangerous. There are certainly times in anything. There are certainly times where you can invest 100% effort. But like anything, it's like it takes a certain amount of sacrifice. Everything is a sacrifice. Everything is not like a trade-off. Like, have you ever heard of opportunity costs? I'm sure you probably have. Yeah, everything's a trade-off. It's like for me to be here on this Skype, I'm not doing something else. For you to be here, you're not doing something else. So everything comes at a cost. So if you invest 100% of your time and effort into one thing, other things suffer, right? And I don't think success happens when you invest 100% into something, right? Maybe you can sustain it short term, but long term, certainly not. It's like I think long-term results and progress, like trending in that right direction that you want, will happen when you're kind of putting a consistent average of amount, of effort, consistently over time into whatever endeavor you deem worthy. It's like you
Yeah.
have 24 hours. How are you going to spend them? You're going to put 2 hours into the podcast 3 days a week. Okay. It's like, and you just have to apply your effort into those hours, right? And then it's like when something else comes up, you move on to it. Especially in training and nutrition, it's like people burn bright and burn fast. They'll say, "Fuck, yep, I'm fucking tracking macros. I'm going to be 100%," and then they go, I'm not eating out. I'm only eating chicken, broccoli, and rice. I'm eating out of Tupperware containers all the time. And it's like, well, I've seen it enough. You've probably seen it. It's like, way to go about it. I've done it. It's like, that's fucking shit. It's like, you'll hate yourself for it.
Yeah.
You'll get really good results temporarily, and then you'll realize that you've made all these sacrifices, and the pendulum will swing the other way, and it'll swing just as hard. And then then if you're not 100% on, you're 100% off. And it's like, maybe if you were just 75% on, like 100% of the time, that's better rather than being 100% 50% of the time.
This has kind of been the thing I've tried to do with the podcast. It's like I've been at uni, I've been trying to be a podiatrist, and then I've realized, nope, I don't want to be a podiatrist. And it's kind of like, okay, I could have just said fuck it, dropped out, and gone all in, but it's like...
Is a professional podcaster a podiatrist as well?
Well, I don't want to be a podiatrist at all, just for a multitude of reasons.
You get a lot of people like code blues, podiatrists.
With what?
People come code blues.
What do you mean?
People come in like diabetics and stuff.
Yeah, it's fucked. That's one reason though. It's because it's we can't do like something that I really want to change is like, I don't know, even see if it's a place that I can get people to change the perception of their scope. It's kind of like nutrition and exercise around, like, as a podiatrist, it's pretty abysmal. It's pretty, I don't know. Like, none of my classmates have any clue around this kind of stuff. Any clue at all. And
maybe you can be a pioneer and change that industry, though.
No, exactly. But then it's like... Yeah, so that's something I'm trying to figure out how to do. So it's either through working with the university or through working independently. Because I know they have to upskill, but I need to see, like, similar to what you guys have done. It's like, raise the standard in this industry. Because it's fucked. It's honestly fucked. It's like someone came into my clinic yesterday, and if I say what they said, that's breaching patient confidentiality.
Not really. It's like you haven't said who they are.
Okay.
So don't say who they are.
Yeah. And so they said something along the lines of kind of, yeah, I basically eat whatever I want. And it's
healthy.
Just... Yeah, and they have systemic conditions that would be a major issue for. And it's like they're saying I can eat whatever I want, and it's just like, fuck, like, how about we give them some, like, surely we can give podiatrists some sort of guidelines or at least a resource to refer people to. Because it's like, in practice, yeah, people get lazy, but it's like, fuck, like, these people are going to die. Like, if we don't intervene, and they just keep, like, they're going to get neuropathic, they're going to have no ability to heal. If they get an ulcer, they're fucked. It's like, I don't know, it's just pretty, it's abysmal. But, yeah, it's like...
Well, it's like you clearly see something that you want to change, so it's like, how can you facilitate that? It's like, there's two options. You can either go, fuck it, I don't want to be in this industry, or you can be like, okay, I want to try and improve it.
And I don't think
so it's like you can wipe your hands of it, or like, I
don't think it's an impossible project either.
I don't think so. It's like, why couldn't you establish a podiatry firm that also does, like, health and fitness consulting?
I just wouldn't want to treat as a podiatrist at all. I just find it not as interesting as this. Pretty much.
So then, mate, why wouldn't you could potentially go into a partnership with someone who does want to be a podiatrist.
Exactly, yeah.
And say, well, you deal with you consult with them, and then it's like, and you make it a package or something. I don't know what the answer is, but you see a problem. Find a solution.
Yeah, no, exactly. The idea is,
because it's like, if there's a need, if you see that there's a need for it in a market, it's like there's probably money to go into it.
Yeah.
Especially in the health sector, it's like the government will probably fucking subsidize that stuff if you can double up and say, well, we're podiatry and personal training.
This is what I want to figure out, right? I want to figure out or even like the idea that I would want to do is I don't want to practice as a podiatrist at all, but I'd love to develop a course or something or some sort of system they could use to upskill, because it's like it's what scared me about medicine is like you see the levels of knowledge that practitioners have is so fucking vast. It's like you get great podiatrists and fucking shit ones, and it's like
everything.
Yeah, it's I don't know, and it sucks, but it's like no matter if they're great or shit, I would say most of them would give barely any nutrition advice, and maybe that's for the best, because you know it's a whirlwind if you just look at the first thing you Google, but it's like I don't know, maybe they
Google's great.
Yeah, like maybe they could have a
Super dangerous.
some kind of resource to learn some shit. I don't know, it's because it's like how can they know it's trusted? Like for instance, the World Health Organization and the New Zealand's Ministry of Health actually gives decent recommendations. Like it's actually not terrible. Like this is specifically on their exercise. They have 2 days of resistance training and 3 days of cardio would be their recommendation of like optimal, and then they've also like noted anything is better than nothing, and it's just stuff like that. It's like okay, that's not actually terrible. So it's like, you know, why can't we set up something like that to I don't know, raise the standard a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A problem for you to solve.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's like it won't be easy.
No.
But it might be worthwhile.
Yeah, because
like,
my lecturers are well aware
into it.
of how passionate I am about this shit. And I don't know. Yeah, I just need to figure out.
There's got to be a way to facilitate it,
Yeah.
I would think.
I agree.
I'd be surprised if you couldn't come up with a creative solution that kind of utilizes both areas of expertise and like skills to mutually benefit the client. You know, it's like, oh, client comes in. Well, maybe if you ate like this, you wouldn't have all these health problems.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it's like maybe it's just maybe there's three of you. You get like a, you know, nutritionist or registered dietitian. You have a coach, someone who's working with them on their physical activity and their training, someone who's working with nutrition, someone who like, you know, GP, podiatrist, someone who's equipped to deal with the medical side of things. Don't know.
Fuck yeah, yeah. I don't know. I want to see. I'm putting a lot of thought into it right now, like in discussing it. I'm currently on placement. Well, I just finished my placement with a podiatrist. I've been talking about it with him a little bit, and it's kind of. I want to see what my lecturers say because podiatry is very small. I'm going to try.
Why don't you ask the clients that come in?
Oh, I do. So I've talked to them a little bit about it as well. Like, not even. I haven't asked them specifically about that, but like, what do they do? What are their perceptions around these things? And just trying to like, I'm just sitting there observing a lot of the time. So I'll ask them questions like, "Hey, what would like a
kind of just probing for information?
Yeah, like what would a normal day of eating look like? What do you think that's a good day of eating? What are the foods you're kind of scared of, or what kind of exercise do you do? Do you do any? And just trying to be as non-confrontational as possible, because obviously they're scared.
Yeah, inquisitive, like just you know, it's like you're just trying to probe for information that could potentially help them.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to give off. It's a scary and complex topic.
Yeah, but it's probably a worthwhile one.
Fucking problem it has to be solved. It's the reason I'm not doing podiatry. Like it's the very reason I'm not doing it, because it's just like I see all these issues outside, like inside podiatry and inside medical practice in general, and I feel like it's just there's so many that fitness has solved so well, but people don't even believe in it, right? It's like people disrespect fitness so fucking much just because I don't know why. Really, it's like they don't understand that there's really good practitioners out there, and it's like I don't know.
I think
even my lecturers won't give it the light of day. Yeah, on average, it's terrible. Yeah,
it's most people have most people's first experience, because there are more, say, less educated coaches, less experienced coaches, commercial gyms. People's first experience can be a deterring one.
Yeah.
In the sense of like you walk into a commercial gym and there's, you know, people like, you know, lots of people who are in shape.
Yeah.
You know, like sweating, like lifting really
decades.
heavy weights, and you're in there and you're like, oh, you know, you become really uncomfortable, and that's your first experience. Now it's like you don't want to go into a gym again.
Yeah.
You need to come up with a way to overcome that. It's like, that's what we've tried to do. It's like we create a space that's not a commercial gym, so to make people comfortable. It's like our dad, when he went to a gym years ago, it's like a guy told him to get out of his mirror space. It's like, and he never went back. And it's like,
Whoa.
if one of our clients said that to someone, I would chastise them.
Yeah. No, that's the
because
thing, though.
That's not an appropriate way to speak to someone else, because everyone is just here doing the same thing.
Exactly.
Whether you're 150 kilos or whether you're 65 kilos and shredded, it doesn't fucking matter. Yeah. It's like no one's training is more important. No one's life is more important to anyone else other than their own. Like, it's like my training is the most important training of anyone's training to me.
Yeah.
But it's like when I'm working with my client, it's like their training is more important to me than anyone else in the gym. So I'll go and kick people's equipment and tell them to fuck off. I do that all the time. No. But seriously, it's like, people shouldn't... I think it's very easy to like feel out of place, like a fish out of water, but it's like everyone started somewhere. It's like no one woke up really jacked, you know what I mean? It's like no one woke up.
Except maybe
like
Ronnie.
Maybe some people, because genetics.
But even for them, it's not like what they want, right? It's like it's all subjective to the eye of the beholder, right? It's like to you, like what looks jacked to someone might be like them being, they might be jacked to someone else, but then to themselves they might be like, oh fuck, I'm not, like, my back isn't wide enough, or
exactly. I think it's very easy for people just to presume, like, look at someone else and say, oh, look at, I'd love to be like that. But as I said, like, earlier, it's like that kind of, like, all elusive, progression towards, like, what we deem to improve. It's like even the people you look at, it's like, it's like you look at, say, guys who are winning pro cards and stuff in natural federations, like Eric Holmes and, like Jeff Nippard and all of these people who it's like people aspire to be like, but it's like they also look up to someone else.
Yes, exactly.
It's like they're still not happy. They're still working hard.
For instance, like the respect Eric gives to Brian Whitaker, it's like that's the person for him that like makes him go, holy shit, And it's like there's levels of that, right? Like I look at Eric probably the same way he looks at Brian. And it's like same kind of thing. It's like you look at them and there's that, and then there's probably people that look at me and like go, oh wow, like look at what you've achieved. So it's like it's just like same exact kind of thing.
It's cyclical. Yeah. It's like everyone's looking at someone else saying, I wish what they had. Yeah. The grass is always greener though, right? Yeah. It's like, people go, oh, I wish I had have done this, but it's like, there are people who look at that person and say, oh, I wish I did what you did.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you've been in a committed relationship for 10 years. Oh, yeah, but I wish I was single. And then there's the people who have been single for 10 years saying, I wish I was in a committed relationship, and just like,
Well, you can't fucking, I don't know. That's why I don't want to leave the whole podiatry and nutrition and exercise thing. I don't want to just let that go, Like,
no. It's like, I think if you develop that skill set though, it's like you'll eventually work out a way to combine them in a productive way.
Yeah, that's
it's like
goal.
Realistically. Yeah, I would say that's what I've done.
But even not just for podiatry, like the whole of medicine would be dope.
Something to work towards for sure.
Yeah, 100%, man. Do you have any last parting words?
Not really. I just think, just general rule of thumb, like people should just not be assholes. Yeah. I think if if everyone can they found it, whether it's a client, whether it's a physical space like a gym or a kitchen, their bedroom floor at home. It's like if you just on a daily basis are trying to make improvements on yourself and striving to be better in whatever way you deem to be better. If people are always kind of striving to improve, it's like, and just again, like you don't have to put 100% effort into it every day, because that'll like burn you out very quickly. But if you're just constantly working towards it and putting some effort towards those productive things, you'll always get there. Whether it's in training, whether it's nutrition, whether it's an endeavor, whether it's studying. It's like if you just continually work at it, put effort in, and just try and improve on a daily basis, you'll always get there.
Yeah.
9 times out. Most of the time.
100%. I completely agree.
Without saying an absolute statement, I would be confident to say you'll get closer, at least.
100%, man.
100%. Yeah.
So, where can people find you? Where can people find JPS? Where can people find your products, mentorship, etc., etc.?
People can find me on Instagram. I don't even I'm gonna have to check it. I don't even know what my handle is.
I think it's just Samuel. It's Samuel.Schepis.
Yeah, Samuel.Schepis. Pronounced Schepis, not Schepis. Yeah, I would say most people will probably get value out of following the JPS Health and Fitness Instagram, which is JPS Health_Fitness or JPS Education. Our website is just www.jpshealthandfitness.com.au. If you navigate through there, people can find all of our, like we do a lot of courses. We've got a few upcoming, Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, and potentially looking at Adelaide and maybe up north in Queensland, Gold Coast area. Online mentorship is starting, I think, in 2 weeks, September 2nd. So enrollments are nearly closing. That's really it, I think.
Yeah.
Like online, it's like anyone who's looking for online coaching, you can either go with James or you can come to us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not taking any more clients yet. I've only taken 5, and I'm just sticking with 5 for now. So, and I would recommend JPS more than anyone else, pretty much. It's like,
there you go.
There's some other fantastic companies, but yeah, go give all your business to them instead of me.
Give to us, yeah.
Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you give us a review or you really enjoyed the episode. Let me know any feedback. I'm always open to any criticism, anything like that. Reach out to me on Instagram at James_Walsham, or if you'd like to follow my business account, follow at the Hypertrophy Hub. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you would like to help the show, there's a list of ways to do so in the show notes, but if you're wondering how, the best thing to do is just give us a review on iTunes or just let me know how the show can be improved. Thank you very much.